Let me ask you something that maybe no one else has ever asked you out loud. Have you ever been touched, kissed, even made love to, and still felt completely alone? Like your body was there, present, available, maybe even responding, but your heart was waiting for something that never arrived. We don't talk about this enough. We don't talk about the ache so many women carry quietly. The ache of being wanted physically but not felt emotionally. The ache of intimacy that looks perfect on the outside but leaves you emptier on the inside. And here's the truth. It's not because you're too sensitive or too demanding. It's because you were made for more than just friction and release. You were made for connection, for depth, for soul. But somewhere along the way, the world convinced us to lower our standards, to call shallow things love, to accept presence without presence. That ends here, in this space. We're not just decoding what it looks like when a man desires you. We're uncovering what it means when he loves you through desire. Because when a man makes love from the heart, everything feels different. Your body doesn't just react, it opens. Your mind doesn't wander, it rests. Your soul doesn't question, it remembers. And if you've ever wondered what that kind of love feels like, you're about to find out. 1. He slows down because he wants to feel every moment. There is something almost indescribable that happens when a man makes love, not just with his body, but with his heart. A kind of stillness enters the space, an unspoken language of presence, reverence, and complete surrender. It's not about the rhythm of his hips or the way his hands trace the curves of your skin. It's about how time seems to stretch and slow, like the entire world fades away, and all that exists is you, your breath, your heartbeat, your soul pressed against his. This kind of man doesn't enter intimacy with a goal or a finish line. He doesn't treat your body like a map with a single destination, but rather like a landscape he wants to explore over and over, as if each time is his first and last. He slows down, not because he's unsure or hesitant, but because he's completely overwhelmed by the depth of his feelings. He slows down because he doesn't want to rush through something he's waited his whole life to feel. When a man makes love from the heart, he's not moving fast because fast would mean missing something. Missing the moment your breath catches when he kisses your neck. Missing the way your back arches when he touches that one place you didn't even know was sensitive. Missing the way your body sighs when you feel safe enough to melt beneath his hands. He wants to feel every part of you, and he wants you to feel every part of him, not just physically, but emotionally, energetically, soulfully. He isn't just seeking release, he's seeking resonance. And in that resonance, you begin to feel things you forgot you were allowed to feel. Desired not just for your body, but for your essence. Adored not just in the moment, but in the silence before and after. He doesn't see you as something to conquer. He sees you as something sacred. And because of that, he's not in a hurry. He lingers. He listens. He lets each touch linger like he's memorizing a song he never wants to stop playing. You'll notice how his kisses don't race, how his hands don't grab, how his eyes stay locked onto yours like he's reading your soul with every breath. He slows down because his goal is not to impress you with intensity, but to impress something upon you, something unforgettable, something real. And when he touches you, it doesn't feel performative or mechanical. It feels like worship. You are not a body to him. You are an experience, a miracle, a universe he wants to know in every possible way. And you can feel it, deep in your chest, in the pit of your stomach, in the heat between your legs. That's not just arousal, but awakening. He ignites something inside you that isn't just about sex. It's about connection, emotion, surrender, trust. You begin to notice how you're not just reacting to what he does, but responding to what he feels. Because when a man is fully present, when he moves with heart and intention, your body opens in ways it never does under pressure or expectation. You begin to bloom under his attention like a flower unfolding at its own pace, because it finally feels the sun. There's something almost spiritual about the way he slows down. Like every movement is a prayer, every touch a confession, every kiss a vow. He's not trying to impress you. He's trying to merge with you. And in that merging, you discover something you might not have known was missing. This deep, grounded feeling of being held, not just physically, but emotionally, energetically, like he's holding space for every part of you. Your pleasure, your fear, your longing, your softness, your fire. And maybe, for the first time, you feel like you don't have to perform. You don't have to be loud or wild or perfect. You just get to be, to receive, to respond, to rest in the knowing that this man is not rushing past you. He's anchoring into you. And maybe that's what we've all been craving. Not just to be touched, but to be met, truly met, fully seen, deeply felt. So when he slows down, he's not just controlling the pace. He's communicating something deeper. He's telling you, without words, that he values the experience of you more than the destination. He's telling you that being with you is not about getting somewhere. It's about being somewhere, fully, richly, completely. And that presence, that intentionality, that slowness, it seeps into you. It changes you. It makes you feel not just sexy, but sacred. It reminds you of your own divinity, your own beauty, your own worth. And as he touches you, slowly, reverently, you begin to touch yourself differently too. You begin to realize that the pace you've grown used to, the rushed, disconnected, hurried kind of intimacy, was never about you. It was about men who didn't know how to love, men who didn't know how to feel, men who were too afraid of their own vulnerability to sit in the stillness of your body. But this man, the one who slows down, he's different. He's brave. He's open. He's in awe of you. And in his slowness, you find a kind of healing, a kind of home, a kind of truth that tells you this is what it's meant to be. Not chaotic, not uncertain, not transactional, but sacred, intentional, whole. So when he slows down, when he traces every inch of you like it's a story he's never finished reading, when he holds eye contact instead of looking away, when he breathes with you instead of panting above you, know that you're experiencing something rare, something many women crave but few receive. And if it brings you to tears, if it makes you tremble, if it leaves you speechless afterward, it's because your body is remembering what it feels like to be loved this way. And maybe you'll find yourself thinking about it for days afterward. Not because the sex was wild, but because the connection was real. Because you didn't feel like a moment. You felt like a universe. You weren't rushed. You were received. You weren't just touched. You were cherished. That's what it means when a man slows down. It means he's not there for a moment of pleasure. He's there for an experience of intimacy. It means he's not using your body to escape his feelings. He's using his body to express them. It means he doesn't just want to make you moan. He wants to make you feel. He wants you to remember. He wants to leave a fingerprint on your soul, not just your skin. And that, more than anything, is what makes his touch unforgettable. Because it wasn't just physical, it was poetic. And if you've ever had a man make love to you like this, you know exactly what I mean. And if you haven't, let this be the reminder that you deserve to. Not someday, not maybe, but absolutely. You deserve a man who slows down, not because he has to, but because he can't imagine doing anything else. Because to him, you are not something to rush. You are something to revere. 2, he looks deep into your eyes. There's a moment during intimacy when time slows, not because of the pace of your bodies, but because of something far more disarming. His eyes meet yours, and they don't look away, not quickly, not shyly. They hold you there, steady, sure, seeing. And in that moment, it's no longer just physical. It's personal, electric, almost spiritual. You've heard that eyes are the windows to the soul, but when a man makes love from the heart, his eyes aren't just windows. They're invitations to feel, to trust, to open. Eye contact in intimacy is one of the most vulnerable things a man can offer. And when he offers it without flinching, without hiding, without glazing over into performance or detachment, what he's really offering is himself, fully, unapologetically. In his gaze, you don't just see desire. You see emotion, depth, intention, and something ancient and instinctive inside you responds. Your body recognizes it before your mind does. This is different. This is real. When a man truly connects through his eyes during intimacy, it bypasses logic. It bypasses everything you've been told about how to know if he cares. There's no checklist here, no game, just presence, pure, potent presence. And in that space, your walls begin to melt. You stop thinking about how you look. You stop thinking about what's next. You're pulled into the now, into him, into the beautiful gravity of a gaze that says, I'm here, I see you, I want you. Not just the surface of you, not the version of you that tries to impress. He's looking into the parts of you you thought were invisible, the parts no one ever stayed long enough to notice. And that's where the magic lives. That's where the intimacy explodes, from physical into emotional, from casual into cosmic. A man who can hold eye contact while making love is a man who's not afraid of being seen himself. And that's rare, that's gold, because it means he's not trying to hide behind performance, behind ego, behind physicality. He's not escaping through sex. He's arriving, coming home to you through his own willingness to be seen and to see you. It's astonishing how many men look away, out of habit, out of fear, out of conditioning. But the one who doesn't, the one who dares to look into you while his body is moving with yours, that's the one whose heart is making love to yours. It's not just his body entering you. It's his soul asking permission to meet yours, right there in the most sacred space two humans can share. And you feel it, don't you? You feel the difference in his gaze. You don't feel watched. You feel held, revered, accepted, and suddenly you want to open more, to give more, because you know you're safe. Eye contact becomes the silent language of lovers who don't need words. It says, I'm not going anywhere. It says, this matters. It says, you can trust me. And when he keeps looking into you, even when the intensity rises, even when the pleasure peaks, even when you feel like looking away out of habit or self-consciousness, that's when you know it's real. That's when you know he's not just making love to your body. He's staying connected to your being. And what's more intimate than that? What's more arousing, more vulnerable, more honest than a man who undresses you, not just with his hands, but with his eyes, layer by invisible layer, until you're left there, fully exposed and fully adored, and you feel more whole, not less. It's that kind of eye contact that lingers in your memory days later. Not the orgasm, not the words, but the look, the feeling of being seen so completely that it almost scared you. And yet you didn't look away either, because you didn't want to, because in his eyes, you saw something reflected back at you. Something soft, something brave, something like love. And maybe for the first time you felt yourself wanting to stare back, to meet him there, to let your own eyes say, "I'm here too." Because once that connection is established, it becomes addictive. Soul gazing during intimacy isn't about staring, it's about surrender. It's about saying with your eyes what your lips may be too scared to say. I feel safe with you. I trust you. I want to be nowhere else but here. And if you've ever experienced that, even for a moment, you know it's unforgettable. If this is resonating with you right now, if you've ever had a man look at you during intimacy like you were his entire world, like and comment 1 below if you enjoyed this, because we're only just beginning, and these signs go deeper than most people dare to explore. And if this kind of real, raw, intimate connection speaks to your soul, make sure you subscribe. You and I aren't here to talk about surface level. We're here to uncover the truth behind the kind of intimacy that heals, transforms, and awakens parts of you that were waiting to be loved this way. A man who locks eyes with you in the middle of making love isn't making a move. He's making a choice. He's choosing to stay, to connect, to witness you. And witnessing is one of the deepest human needs we have, to feel like someone truly sees us. Not just the curated version, not just the sensual body, but the messy, magnificent, multifaceted soul inside. And when a man offers that gift through his gaze, your body responds in ways it never has before. You become more sensitive, more receptive, more aligned, because now intimacy is no longer about function, it's about fusion. Your energies fuse, your minds go quiet, your souls wrap around each other like old friends. There's no anxiety, no pressure, no awkwardness, just breath, just heat, just home. And in that home, you can fall apart without fear. You can cry if it comes. You can laugh. You can tremble. You can collapse into him, knowing that he's not going to look away. Not in this moment, not in any moment. Because a man who can hold eye contact during sex is a man who will likely hold your heart the same way, steadily, gently, without flinching. It's in the small things. The way his eyes soften when you moan. The way he slows down when he sees you're close. The way he reads your reactions without you having to speak. It's a silent symphony, and eye contact is the conductor. It sets the tone, the tempo, the depth. And when it's real, it's undeniable. So many women go through intimacy without ever being truly seen. They get touched, they get taken, but they never get witnessed. That's why eye contact matters. That's why it changes everything, because it proves he's not just there. He's with you, entirely, emotionally, spiritually. That kind of gaze isn't just rare, it's sacred. So the next time a man looks into your eyes during intimacy, don't look away. Stay. Meet him. Receive him. Because in that space, something far more powerful than sex happens. Something healing. Something holy. 3. He cares about your pleasure, not just his own. There's a moment during intimacy when something subtle but incredibly profound happens. A shift, a recognition, a silent exchange of intention. It's not loud, it's not showy. It's in the way he breathes with you, touches you, waits for you. A man who makes love from the heart is not simply focused on his own release, and he's not performing a checklist of what he thinks you want. He is listening to your body, to your energy, to the unspoken rhythm of your breath. And he's responding, not to dominate the experience, but to honor it. You can feel it in the way he explores your pleasure, as if it's a journey, not a destination. There's no pressure, no urgency, no sense that your orgasm is a trophy to display or a box to tick. Instead, there's reverence, curiosity, deep care. He's not just asking, "What do you like?" He's learning you like a melody he wants to memorize by heart. He slows down when you need space. He goes deeper when your breath invites him in. He adjusts, not because you told him to, but because your moan did, because your thigh tensed, because your fingers clutched, because he noticed. This kind of man takes pleasure in your pleasure, not in a performative way, not because he wants credit, but because your joy feeds his soul. When you come alive, so does he. And in that shared ignition, you feel a kind of erotic safety most people only dream about. He doesn't view your body as something to conquer or control. He treats it like a sacred map, and he's endlessly fascinated by the details. The way your skin changes under his mouth, the way your breath trembles when he whispers something low, the way your whole being shifts when you stop guarding and start glowing. He's attuned, and that attunement isn't accidental, it's intentional. It comes from a place of love, of care, of wanting you to feel not just satisfied, but worshipped. Because to him, this isn't just physical. Your pleasure is emotional, spiritual, healing, and he respects that. So when he touches you, it's not with entitlement, it's with awe. When he goes down on you, it's not a duty, it's devotion. When he holds you after, it's not habit, it's an honor. And the effect that has on your body? It's transcendent. You stop performing. You stop editing yourself. You stop calculating whether you're taking too long, or being too loud, or moving too much. You just let go, because you know he wants you to, because you know he's in this with you. Not ahead of you, not behind you, but right there, matching your rhythm, riding your wave, breathing in sync. That kind of connection allows your pleasure to unfold without shame. And the more you let go, the more he meets you, not with greed, but with generosity, not with force, but with finesse. He doesn't see your body as a tool to reach his own climax. He sees it as a temple to be entered gently, kissed reverently, explored deeply. And that's what makes the experience unforgettable. It's not that he has the best technique in the world. It's that his intention is pure. You feel safe with him, safe to ask, safe to pause, safe to take up space, safe to want. And your wanting becomes a flame he wants to protect, not put out. When you say there, he listens. When you say softer, he softens. When you say don't stop, he doesn't. Because his goal is not dominance, it's resonance. He wants to be in harmony with you. And when he finally sees you fall apart, when he watches your body quake, when he feels you completely surrender to the wave of your own ecstasy, his satisfaction isn't about pride. It's about presence. He was there for it, with you, because of you. And that moment becomes less about orgasm and more about alchemy. Something changes, you change, he changes, the connection changes, and even if no one speaks, you both know something real just happened. Something rare, something sacred. A man who cares about your pleasure doesn't just care about your climax. He cares about your comfort, your emotional openness, your full body yes. He cares about your healing. Because whether you realize it or not, sensuality, when approached with presence and heart, has the power to heal the parts of you that were once ignored, rushed, dismissed, overridden, shamed. A man who cares will never rush you past those places. He'll wait for you there, gently, patiently, without expectation. He'll let you unravel, and then he'll hold you through it. There's something deeply erotic about being truly cared for during sex. Not coddled, not idolized, just seen, held, cherished. And when a man gives you that kind of space, when he treats your pleasure as sacred, not strategic, your entire nervous system begins to relax. You stop bracing. You start blooming. And in that blooming, he gets to meet the realist version of you. The one who doesn't need to fake moans or hurry pleasure or worry about whether she's too much. He gets to meet your softness and your fire, your innocence and your power. And he's not afraid of any of it. He welcomes all of it. And perhaps most importantly, he doesn't keep score. He doesn't make your pleasure transactional. He gives without needing a return. And that giving opens something in you that you didn't know was closed. Because the world doesn't always teach men to be givers in sex. It teaches them to take, to win, to conquer. So when you meet a man who unlearns that, who rewrites that script with his own hands and mouth and body and heart, you remember what it's like to be truly loved. You remember what it's like to matter, not just as an object of lust, but as a being of desire. And that's what makes his lovemaking unforgettable. It's not just what he does, it's why he does it. His motivation isn't ego. It's empathy, it's emotional fluency, it's attunement. And even after it's over, you'll feel it. In the way you're still glowing, in the way your body feels more like home, in the way your heart feels a little more open, your mind a little more still. Because you weren't just desired, you were honored. You weren't just touched, you were cherished. You weren't just satisfied, you were transformed. And that is the kind of pleasure a heart-connected man gives. Not just orgasms, but openings. Not just performance, but presence. Not just heat, but healing. And once you've felt it, once your body has been loved in that way, it remembers, it yearns, it waits, because anything less just doesn't reach the same depth. And why should it? You deserve the man who slows down, who locks eyes, who listens to your body like it's sacred scripture, and then follows it with devotion. You deserve the man who takes joy in your joy, whose hands speak fluently in the language of your skin, whose soul whispers yes every time yours trembles. That man exists, and when he finds you, he won't rush, he won't perform, he won't take, he'll give, he'll care, he'll worship, he'll love you, not just with his desire, but with his heart. For he is emotionally present, not just physically there. There is something incredibly rare, almost otherworldly, about a man who is fully present with you during intimacy. Not just with his body, not just going through the motions of touch and rhythm, but with his entire emotional landscape open, available, and wrapped around you. A man who makes love from the heart doesn't disappear into his own pleasure, doesn't mentally drift into fantasy, and doesn't zone out when things get quiet, slow, or real. He stays, he grounds, he leans in, and when he does, you feel it, not just in your skin, but in your soul. Because when a man is emotionally present in intimacy, you're not just being touched, You're being felt. You're not just being kissed. You're being received. He's not thinking about how he looks, how long he's lasting, or how to perform in bed. He's thinking about you, feeling you, merging with you in a way that goes far beyond technique. And the most powerful part, he allows himself to be moved by you. He doesn't block his own emotions out of fear of seeming weak. He doesn't hide behind control. He feels, and because he feels, he allows you to feel. That kind of presence is soul-melting. You sense it in the way he watches you breathe, in the way his body adjusts to yours instinctively, in the way he holds space for all of you. Not just the sexy, loud, turned-on parts, but the tender parts, the shaky parts, the deeply human parts that so often go unseen. He doesn't check out when you start to cry. He doesn't panic if you need to pause. He doesn't rush to fix anything. He just stays in the moment, stays with you, stays grounded in a kind of emotional bravery that tells you, I'm not afraid of your vulnerability. I'm here for it. I want it. And in return, you find yourself dropping deeper, trusting harder, opening wider, because something inside you knows. When a man is emotionally present, your body can finally surrender. You're no longer holding tension in your chest or pretending to be somewhere you're not. You're fully here because he is fully here. And that mutual presence, that emotional nakedness, that's where the real magic unfolds. That's when sex becomes ceremony. That's when bodies become bridges. That's when souls get braided together in silence, sweat, and skin. He's not analyzing you. He's experiencing you. He's not wondering whether he's doing it right. He's simply responding to the truth of your body, moment by moment. And when his eyes meet yours, you don't see lust. You see recognition. You see that he's still there, still watching, still breathing with you, still loving you, not with expectation, but with appreciation. This kind of presence cannot be faked. It cannot be manufactured. It's not something you can teach a man through a checklist. It's something he chooses, and when he chooses it, it feels like your entire nervous system exhales. Because now you're not alone in the experience. You're not entertaining him. You're not giving it up. You're sharing something sacred, something soft, something so much deeper than words. And you know it because you feel safe. Safe to speak, safe to ask, safe to tremble, safe to be silent, safe to just exist in his arms without pressure, expectation, or shame. Emotional presence is the invisible thread that ties every touch together. It's what makes the difference between being made love to and being truly loved through intimacy. You can feel when he's there. You can feel when he's not. And once you've experienced the difference, your body will never forget. Because your body knows what it's like to be rushed, to be handled without heart, to be undressed but not truly seen. And your body knows what it's like to be cradled in presence, to be held with depth, to be cherished in the quiet. The kind of man who is emotionally present doesn't try to escape discomfort. He doesn't check his phone afterward. He doesn't pull away the moment the physical act is done. He stays, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. And that post-intimacy presence, that's the echo of real connection. You feel it in the way he pulls you close, in the way he whispers, in the way he doesn't need to say anything at all, because his energy is already saying, I'm still here, I'm not leaving, I'm not disappearing into the coldness of detachment. This isn't over just because we've climaxed. The presence continues, the love remains. And maybe that's the rarest thing of all. A man who doesn't just show up to bed, but who stays present the entire time, who's not thinking about what comes next, who's not trying to control the narrative, who's not making love with an agenda. He's just loving, just breathing, just being. And in that being, you'll finally feel like you don't have to do it all. You don't have to perform or lead or carry the emotional weight of the experience alone, because he's right there beside you, emotionally naked, wide open, willing to feel. Whatever arises, that's what presence looks like. That's what love sounds like when it stops using words. And if you've ever had that with a man, you know, it changes everything. It ruins you in the best possible way for anything that feels less than fully alive, fully connected, fully here. So if your heart is nodding along right now, if you know this kind of presence is what you crave and what you deserve, then like and comment 1 if you resonate with this. And if you want more truth like this, real, raw, soul-deep truths about men, connection, intimacy, and how to know when it's real, then hit that subscribe button. Because this is just the beginning, and we're going deeper every step of the way. A man who is emotionally present in intimacy is a man who gives more than his body. He gives his attention, his tenderness, his time, his vulnerability. And that gift, that sacred gift of full presence, it's the most erotic thing in the world. Not the moves, not the tricks, not the fantasy. Just this, his heart, right here with yours, beating at the same pace, not running, not hiding, just loving. And that is what makes everything feel different, even if nothing looks different on the outside. Because true intimacy doesn't start in the body, it starts in the heart. And a man who is emotionally present already knows that. He doesn't need to be told how to love. He just needs to be free to love you fully. 5, he holds you afterward. There's something that happens after intimacy that is often overlooked, often rushed, often discarded as unnecessary. Yet it holds a kind of emotional power that transcends the act itself. It's in the stillness after the storm, the breath after the climax, the space between what just happened and what happens next. And in that space, one simple action speaks volumes. When he holds you, not because he thinks he should, not out of guilt, politeness, or routine, but because he wants to. Because even after the pleasure, even after the fire, even after the waves have passed and the stillness returns, he doesn't want to let go. He wants to stay close. He wants to keep you wrapped in the warmth of his presence, to feel your heartbeat against his, to let your breath and his begin to find the same rhythm. When a man makes love from the heart, the intimacy doesn't end when the movement stops. It lingers, it deepens, it settles into a new kind of closeness that has nothing to do with arousal and everything to do with connection. He doesn't roll over or get up and leave the bed as if it was all just a task completed. He doesn't reach for distractions, his phone, or distance. He reaches for you, pulls you close, wraps his arms around you like you are something precious, something irreplaceable, because to him, you are. You're not just a partner in pleasure. You're not just a beautiful body. You're a soul he just touched, a heart he just danced with, a presence that he now feels so close to that he doesn't want to break the spell by creating distance. And so, he holds you. Maybe he doesn't say much. Maybe he just breathes. Maybe he kisses your forehead or rests his hand gently on your waist. But every gesture speaks the same language. I'm still here. I'm with you. I'm not going anywhere. That moment right there has the power to rewrite so many of the stories that women carry in their bodies. Stories of being used, abandoned, rushed, forgotten. When a man holds you afterward, not because he has to, but because his heart compels him to, it tells your nervous system, this is safe, this was real, you are not alone in this. And suddenly, all the vulnerability you allowed during intimacy, all the emotional exposure, all the surrender, it feels worth it. It feels held. It feels seen. Because, let's be honest, anyone can perform during sex. Anyone can say the right things, touch the right places, create the illusion of connection. But the moments after, the quiet, raw, unfiltered moments after, those reveal the truth. And if he holds you, if he wraps you in his arms and doesn't rush to end the moment, then you're not just someone he slept with. You're someone he wants to stay with, someone he respects, someone whose energy he wants to remain in, even without stimulation, even without movement, just breath and skin and silence and truth. And what's more intimate than that? More healing, more revealing. There's a certain kind of trust that forms when you're held like this, a kind of emotional safety that says, I see you, I'm here with you. Your body matters, yes, but so does your heart. So does your soul. And when he stays, when he touches your hair, or strokes your back, or simply anchors you against his chest, he is grounding both of you in the afterglow of something sacred. It's as if his touch is saying, that wasn't just sex. That was something else, something soft and real and unforgettable, and I want to stay here with you a little longer. You don't need to speak. You don't need to explain. You don't even need to move. You just breathe, and in his arms, you feel not just desired, but adored, not just seen, but kept. And isn't that what so many women crave? Not just to be the object of a man's attention for a few heated moments, but to be the recipient of his continued presence, his lingering love, his honest closeness. There's a moment after the passion, after the heat, after the rawness where everything softens. And when he holds you, he's allowing that softness to have space. He's telling you without a single word that he is capable of holding more than just your body. He can hold your emotions, your silence, your softness, your storm, and that is what separates love from lust, depth from surface, intimacy from transaction. A man who holds you after making love is a man who doesn't see you as a moment. He sees you as a world, and in that world, he wants to stay. He's not looking to escape. He's not counting the minutes. He's not uncomfortable with the closeness. He welcomes it. He drinks it in because to him, the act of holding you is just as erotic, just as sacred, just as meaningful as the act of touching you. And your body feels it. Your heart relaxes. Your breath softens. You begin to believe that maybe this is what it's supposed to feel like. Not rushed, not cold, not confusing, but warm, still, complete. And maybe in that quiet moment, you find yourself letting go of years of tension, of stories that taught you men always leave. That intimacy is always one-sided. That connection is fleeting. Because now you're experiencing something different. You're experiencing a man who doesn't leave the moment. He leans deeper into it. He lets the closeness expand. He lets it breathe. And the result? You feel whole. You feel like what just happened wasn't just physical. It was emotional, spiritual, transformational. And the holding, that simple, powerful act of holding, becomes the exclamation point at the end of a love letter written with skin. It says more than words ever could. It says, I value you. I cherish you. I'm still here. So often we think of intimacy as what happens during, but the after holds just as much meaning. It's the part where connection either roots deeper or gets exposed as shallow. And a man who holds you after sex is showing you who he is, not just in pleasure, but in peace, in stillness, in softness. And that is a man who loves with his whole heart. 6. He speaks soft words of love or affection. There is something profoundly intimate, almost disarming, about a man who lets his guard down during the most vulnerable moments and allows words, not just sounds or gasps, but genuine heartfelt words, to pour out of him while he's making love to you. It's in the way his voice shifts, tone becoming quieter, lower, slower, and carrying not just desire, but depth. It's the kind of voice that doesn't demand or perform. It reveals a man who makes love from the heart. He doesn't stay silent, not because silence is wrong, but because he can't help but let his feelings spill into the air around you. Whether it's a whisper of, "I love you," against your skin, a reverent, "You're so beautiful," murmured in the haze of desire, or a tender, unscripted, "I'm so lucky you're mine," breathed into the crook of your neck. It's not rehearsed. It's not performative. It's not said for effect. It's real, and it's rare. To speak during intimacy, to say what you truly feel in that moment, takes courage, vulnerability, presence, and the willingness to be fully seen, not just in body but in heart. So when a man speaks softly to you while your bodies are entangled, while your breaths are mingling, while the physical tension rises, those words become more than words. They become anchors, gentle hands that hold your spirit as tenderly as his body holds your flesh. It tells you he's connected. This isn't just about friction or fantasy. This is about feeling. He's not afraid to name it, to let it show. You hear it in the little moments between gasps, in the tremble of his breath, in the rawness of a whispered phrase he didn't plan. It may not even be poetic. Sometimes it's messy, awkward, honest. But that's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes it unforgettable. Because now it's not just his body that's inside you. It's his soul, his voice, his truth. And you don't feel like a fantasy. You feel like home, his choice, his sacred place to rest. And maybe for the first time, in the quiet power of his words, you begin to believe you are worthy of being adored. Not just touched, not just wanted, but adored. Those words echo long after. They stay in your memory. They soften your chest when you think of them days later. They remind your nervous system that you are not just a participant. You are cherished, held, named. It's a different kind of pleasure, one that doesn't just peak in the body, but expands through the heart. A man who can express his love verbally in the middle of physical intimacy is not just present. He's emotionally intelligent, emotionally brave. He doesn't need to armor up or pretend. He doesn't see tenderness as weakness. He sees it as truth. And in that truth, he gives you permission to speak too, to return the softness, to say, "I love you," back without hesitation, to whisper, "Don't stop." Not because of the physical sensation, but because you don't want the emotional closeness to end, because you've never been touched like this inside and out. Words during intimacy are often undervalued, ignored, or replaced with noise that means nothing. But real words, spoken with intention and authenticity, have the power to break down every wall a woman has ever built to protect herself from being used. In those moments, his words don't feel like manipulation. They feel like music. They feel like a sacred vow made not in ceremony, but in sweat, breath, and closeness. And if he tells you you're beautiful, you believe him, not because of the way you look, but because of the way he says it, as if you're not just attractive, you're luminous, as if your body is a sacred text he's finally allowed to read, as if your heart is something he's longed to be near. These are not the words of a man who's trying to get something. These are the words of a man who's already full, already grateful, already in awe of the moment you're sharing. And sometimes, the most powerful thing he says isn't even a sentence. Sometimes it's your name, whispered like a prayer, moaned like a melody, breathed like a lifeline. And in that name, you feel everything. How much he wants you, how much he respects you, how much he's emotionally wrapped up in the experience of loving you. And let's not forget the quiet confessions, the I missed you, the I don't want this to end, the you drive me crazy. These aren't lines, they're moments of emotional exposure, unscripted, unfiltered, and they mean more than any grand romantic gesture ever could. Because they come when he's raw, when he's open, when he's closest to you in every possible way. And that's when the truth always comes out. So, if you've ever had a man speak to you during intimacy in a way that made you melt, made you weep, made you believe again in real love, then like and comment, #1, if you're feeling this video right now. Because this is what it's about, real connection, real language, real love. And if this kind of emotional intimacy speaks to your soul, don't forget to subscribe, because we're not stopping at surface level. We're diving all the way in. The next part is going to touch even deeper. You begin to trust that this isn't just about how he feels in the moment. It's about how he feels about you. And those words become the thread that ties everything together. His slowness, his eye contact, his care for your pleasure, his presence, his holding, now his voice, now his truth. And it becomes undeniable. He's not just making love. He's loving fully out loud, without apology. And that is something no one forgets.